Well, it's actually 4 books, correct? Not a trilogy.
No, it's three. You got it.
It's 3. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the books?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will be completely transparent, as I was saying before we got on live.
I love that.
Talking about the books is like the worst part of this job, which sounds very strange. And I want to acknowledge up front, it sounds very strange coming from like an author who put like a lot of time and a lot of effort into not one, not two, but three books. And when you ask her, like, hey, tell us about the book, she goes completely like white blank slate. But I'm going to do my very best. So, in a nutshell, the Legacy of the Four trilogy is an adult romantic trilogy that basically blends Greek mythology with the legend of the Four Horsemen. It is set in a world where angels and demons and humans exist under this peace treaty that is held together by the Four Horsemen. Because I really like to make it a twist on they're not bringing about the apocalypse, they're actually these legendary guardians tasked with protecting humanity from destruction. Um, One of my main characters, Shade Mercer, is forced basically back into this world that she had tried to leave behind when her childhood best friend and first love, Theodore Kennedy, reappears in her life after 10 years of being away. Only now he is this vessel for the horseman Death. He's carrying a ridiculous amount of power. And he takes her, the books go through, they're kind of categorized into like reuniting the horsemen. He takes her on this journey to reunite the horsemen and stop this, grand looming threat that is upon the world. And there's a dog because I love adding animal
You
companionship
gotta
to
have a
things.
dog.
Aww.
And you gotta have, listen, you could throw any animal and I'll be happy, but for me, it was a dog. And so the journey that they take is one of basically uncovering a conspiracy of what happened and why they were separated and what happens going forward.
Nice.
Very
Yeah, I'm
neat.
glad you got the dog in there because obviously we have Capone, who's our little mascot and in our
Yes,
logo and everything, and that's Angela's dog, but he's my little nephew.
got it. Understood. I love the relationships, and I think that's solid. That's awesome. Yeah.
What was one of the best mistakes you ever made while reading the Book of Revelation that sparked the idea for your Legacy of the Four?
That's a great question, just because the entire concept of Legacy of the Four was based on a mistake in the book of Revelation. So
Now, did you
it
find that
start
mistake, or was it something you heard about?
no, it was my error. It was because I was not as knowledgeable in the lore and the mythos of this Christian story. And so when I read the line, I was floored. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is happening? There's a cross collaboration of mythos with Greek. Like, why does Christian mythology have Greek in it?" And so it was my error because it obviously does not have Greek mythology in it. And so it meant something completely different than what I had interpreted it. But because I interpreted it the way I did, the story of Legacy of the Four became something very real to me, and I just kind of ran with it. So, I was just to give a little bit of backstory. I was on maternity leave at the time, so it was about 7 years ago. And I was, when you're on maternity leave, you're basically bedridden towards the end. And so I was binge watching TV shows and movies. And on one particular TV show, they mentioned the Four Horsemen. Now, I hadn't seen a lot of them in mainstream media before. And the way that they portrayed it in this TV series, I thought was really interesting. It was a really solid concept. And so I was like, I don't know a lot about them. Let me just go to where their origin is, which is the book of Revelation. Opened that thing up. I got really excited about, me who hadn't touched the book before thought it was going to be like pages upon pages. It was maybe like a paragraph introducing them, and that was their big story into the book of Revelation. But one line in particular said, and I'm going to paraphrase, so I apologize in advance, but it said, I looked and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. And so in my brain, and I was a classics minor, the only Hades that I was familiar with was Lord of the Underworld in the Greek myth. And so I was like, what's happening here? I don't understand it. And it ignited within me a scene that stemmed the rest. I basically created a scene in my head and then was like, I need to build something around this scene. And it started a little bit kind of like a screenplay, and then it evolved into what is now the trilogy. So,
Cool.
Gotcha.
I'm
That's
always
like
I'm always impressed by writers. I've tried to do kind of like my own autobiography, but even talking about myself, I can't figure out like even how to start it. My son wrote a book already, and he's working on a second one. But I'm like, I just don't, I'm so impressed when people can sit down and put all these stories into these books that become, magical, sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think the thing, I'm going to be honest with it since we're all being transparent. I probably haven't read a book since high school. Okay.
that's okay.
That's
but,
not true.
but I do love the, I have friends that break my balls all the time about, I always say like, it's nice that they made a book out of that movie. And they stop and stare at me. It's like, that's not how it works. I'm like, I know, I get it. Right.
Yeah,
But I love that when you're reading a book though, you get to imagine not what somebody's telling you. Like when you watch a movie, you have to accept what they interpret it as. But reading a book, you get to interpret, the worlds and the colors and the people all by yourself. And that's what I think I like, what I really love about books.
yeah, me too. Me too. I like to have that creative control almost of like
Yes.
how I envision certain scenes playing out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now you were saying that that line that you just gave us, that was kind of like it created your picture. It started the whole, writing of your stories. Now, when you write your books, did you start with like book one first, or did like you come up with number 4 first, and then you kind of did another story? Like how does that whole thing transpire? Like how do you like did you decide that you were going to do a trilogy and have, the books along with it, or did you just decide on the one line and brought you to the one book?
Perfect. I was all over the place in the beginning. There was no structure to how I approached this. I just knew I had a scene, and I was like, how can I write about this scene? In what way? And the first attempt was a screenplay. I wanted to, because I could see it so clearly in my head, I was like, it makes sense to write a screenplay of it. That way I can kind of just put things where they go and then eventually get to the scene. The story had a mind of its own. And so we know screenplays are basically what, like 90 minutes. So maybe 100 pages, a couple hundred, like 100 and some pages, if any. This this did not stop at the required screenplay amount of time. And so I just kind of
Yeah.
kept going. And that's when I realized, like, all right, maybe it's not screenplay material. Let's just start typing it out. And so the first book came alive because I basically took my screenplay and transitioned it into like a novel format, right? A novel narrative, which shows in book one. I'm not ashamed to say that at all. There is a little bit of telling in book one, and then in book two, I get a lot better at letting the reader kind of do the work of, oh, okay, I get this and I got that. I don't got to tell them too much. Um, but because I transitioned it in book one, that's happened. And I have to go in order with things. So there, I knew the scene was going to happen eventually, that scene with the one line, and I knew I had to make that happen. I kind of pinned it in the back of my head, and then I started at the beginning. I cannot for the life of me. Some people are fantastic at it, and I am very jealous of them. You can kind of like jump and like write book two and then be like, oh, I'll figure out book one, or I got the ending already. I went in chronological order,
Okay.
knowing a little bit about what the end was going to be. Because I did feel like if I'm going to commit, I want to make sure I have something completed in my head. So I knew the
Yeah.
ending, I just had to get there. I did it chronologically.
Nice, nice. Well, see, and I think that's it with all of the writers that we've talked to. A lot of them say something similar. It's like they've got maybe their own way of organizing everything, but the scenes, like they've got that picture in their mind of what is going to happen, whether it's one book, two books, three books, whatever it may be. You've already got it set in your mind how it's going to play out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
it's still though. I think it would, for me, if I was going to do like a trilogy of books, I would probably write the whole story out and then just find chopping points and go, okay, that's going to be book one, that's going to be book two, and that's going to be book three.
That's such a smart way to do it, to be quite honest. It's like, why worry about where you're going to cut the books in half? Like, once you realize, okay, this is going way beyond one book. All right, it's going way beyond a duology. Just keep it going. Like, almost
Yeah.
like, let's just see where it goes and see how it lands, and worry about cutting it later. Honestly, I think that is the most sane way to do it for like an
Right.
author. Because once you start to like get in the little muddy details, it stops the writing process, and the writing process is, the most important part. Like, get it
Mhm.
all out on paper, then go back and fix it and go
Yeah.
cutting it and chop things and, make refined scenes and things like that. But the most important part when you're writing, just get it on the paper.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think my
Yeah.
son's first book was probably like, where's the camera? Like that thick. And I was like, I love you, kid, but that's a lot for dad to read.
That's a lot. That is may I ask, like, what kind of genre his book is?
It's what would I call it? It's called Eden Lancer, and it's I wouldn't say sci-fi, but it's like maybe ethereal type thing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's got characters that the brothers that develop powers and stuff like that. So,
Nice. Okay, because
and
I was gonna say this chunk usually means like you're messing with sci-fi and fantasy.
yes,
I mean,
yeah,
like,
Yeah.
horror might be a little lower, and autobiography a little bit, but like fantasy and sci-fi, that's a
yeah.
solid
It was
book
like
for me.
Yeah.
we ordered it and it came and it was like, oh, it's over 2 inches thick.
That's it. That's it. Amazing. Good.
um, so how did you approach reimagining the Four Horsemen as guardians rather than harbingers of the apocalypse?
Yeah, I love that question. Only because I love to twist things and see where they go. So in my genre right now, in like fantasy in general, there's a lot of enemies to lovers, and there's a lot of, dark and dreary things. And so when I set about writing this novel, I like to twist things on their head. So I was like, I don't want enemies to lovers. Everybody's doing enemies to lovers. I'm gonna do, friends to lovers. And oh, the four horsemen. Everybody knows them as bringers of the apocalypse. Well, guess what? I'm gonna make them guardians, and I'm gonna figure out how to do that. And then, I have some twists in angels and twists with demons. And I'm like, I just like turning things on their head and surprising people in a very like natural way. I don't do it just to do it, just to
Right.
surprise somebody. But if there's a point to it, if I feel like there's a nice little flow of the twist, I will definitely throw those things in.
Well, that's why I don't think I was surprised when you said you had Greek mythology in, and you didn't feel like it fit in there. But I would have thought that it would have made me think like, well, maybe there's something missing in history that we don't know about. You know?
So see, you have a writer's brain. That's exactly where my brain went. Like, I was like, what have I missed here? Like, what is happening? And it sent me down the rabbit hole of, let me figure this out, because this is something that I'm not only very interested in, but like, did we miss something here? Like, why is this not being talked about more? Why
Right.
is nobody saying anything about this? And so when I did, the real answer was dull. Like, to me, as a writer, like, not as a person, it's a beautiful story. But to me, the answer wasn't what I wanted it to be. Like, I was so excited at the thought of like crossing the mythologies that when I got the real answer, I was like, oh, okay, sure. I'm gonna go back to mine though. And so that worked out.
I love your chemistry doing this. A lot of people feel like, I don't know, timid or something like that. Like they don't seem to really be enjoying the show. But
Aw.
I don't.
Yeah,
I
I mean, you definitely are having a great time talking about how your whole process of the book, which is wonderful, and we love that. Which kind of brings me to a point too, like with your personality, because your personality is kind of, it reflects right here and we see you, we can see, the smiles on your face and that kind of stuff. But when you're like your characters in there, do any of like influences like in your life or maybe like friends or family or anybody that do they come out in your characters?
Oh, I like that.
Oh, I like that question. Maybe a little bit. I do try to, when I'm writing, my main goal is to try to write exactly what I'm not. So like I try to like make them I try to step out of my comfort zone that way of like,
Okay, yeah.
I tend to I'm be conflict avoidant. All right. I'm gonna make a character that loves conflict. Like
That's me.
total, right. Like I'm just gonna step into it. Even when I don't have to, I'm just gonna step into it because I just love it so much. And it allows me to, express different sides of myself that maybe I wouldn't feel comfortable with doing like out in the real world. And so it allowed me to create this like spectrum of characters that, yes, of course, you're going to touch on some type of personality trait. With Shade, who's the main character of the story, she has some inner thoughts that may be my own sometimes in like the real world. Of course, it's going to happen to every writer, even when they don't mean to. But I never aimed for it to be that way. I always wanted
Right.
to hit as many different personalities as I could because when I'm trying to attract readers, I want to make sure that they feel like they could see themselves in the characters that I'm
Oh,
writing. And
yeah.
sometimes not everybody is like me. And so I want them to have like that, you know, person that really enjoys like tense situations and conflict, or the sarcastic person that just always has a quip for everything,
Right.
the quick
Right.
witted one, the solitary one, the positive penny, things like that. And so I try to make sure
Yeah,
that
somebody they can
everything's
relate
touchable.
to in the story.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah.
never over the top. Always just, they're all relatable. It's just they embody certain characteristics that the others wouldn't have so that we touch on both.
Nice.
Nice.
And thank you so much for before with my demeanor in how I handle podcasts. When I first started to do podcasts, which I will be very honest, was probably one of the scariest things that I have ever done before.
Well, I'll be honest with you too. Part of the reason why we started this, at least for me, is I'm a huge introvert. I have a very high social anxiety when I'm not going someplace with my little posse of people,
Right.
and I own two businesses. Angela helps run. She's a partner in this one, and I wanted to get out of that shell a little bit, and we started doing this with just audio, and then we when we switched to this one, it's like, oh, we have video now. Do we want to do video? So then
Yeah.
our third show that had video on it.
Video. Yeah.
So it's helped a lot. I mean, it's almost like my little personal therapy.
No, it's nice as you grow. Like when I did my first one, and I tell him all the time because I still talk to him. He's very nice to talk to me too. I tell him, I'm like, can we get a redo or something? Like, let me come back. I feel so bad because you were like my first podcast, and if I could tell you that I was as stiff as a board, like I didn't move. I was center frame. I'm like, I will keep my expression so neutral right now. And he's like, are you all right? Like, are you okay? And
Do
so,
we need to call
and
911? I think she's having.
right, like blink if you are okay. And so I was like, all right, I either gotta get with it and try to just loosen up a little bit, or this is not gonna work for me. And so I just had to like pep talk with myself of, you just gotta be yourself. Like, don't worry about it. You're on camera and you're chatting with people who are doing really wonderful things with their platform, and they invited you on. You made it.
Right.
So just have a good time and enjoy the talk wherever it might lead, which is why I try to bring that to every podcast going forward from that first one.
Yeah.
Wow, you're doing beautifully
I
tonight.
think so too.
We're actually
Yes.
enjoying the animated character that you're bringing to the show.
Awesome. Good, good. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Which is herself. She's
Yes.
definitely being
I
herself.
try. I try. I try. I try.
That is great though. I think so many times and it's nice to hear that there are other people out there who, feel that way. They've, messed up on a podcast or, we all make mistakes. But one of the things that I think I've learned along the way is the more mistakes you make, the better you get with the total overall outcome. And I can honestly say how many times, I say sometimes the stupidest things and I'm just like, whoa, why did I say that?
I was just going to say, go back and listen to episodes 1 through 4.
Some of our, and
They were so horrible. They really were. And we started this, it was just us. We weren't bringing guests on. But we were under a furnace. I didn't even think about like where to put the equipment. So the furnace would kick on, and it was just like, oh my goodness. We went to do the playback. It's like, well, what are we going to do now? It's like, do we start over? We ended up deciding, let's just leave them. I would listen to another podcast, and he said the same thing. He's like, I just left them. It just shows that what the show started as, and how it sounds now. You know what I mean? But yeah, I always tell people, if you're going to start listening to the show, skip the first 4 episodes.
Or if you want to just see the progress and, all the mistakes we've made and, and I'm not just talking about the podcast, but, throughout my life, I've done a lot of different things and, public speaking was definitely not my thing in college or anywhere for that matter. So you just find a way to, make things fun. And I think age has a lot to do with it too, as I've gotten into my 50s and we head towards our 60s.
Okay, that was uncalled for and mean. I only turned 60 last month.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Like my care level for certain things goes way down as I get older. Like, do I care about what I'm doing? Absolutely, 100%. But how people perceive me, that's taken a very, very significant nosedive as I've gotten older.
Yeah. Which, and those are good things for you, especially like in your writing, it's like, of course you want, when you're writing, you're obviously writing the books for a reason, but mainly for yourself, you're creating your characters, you're creating your stories, and secondary, you hope that the public's going to enjoy your work just as much as you do. Is that fair
100%. When I first started writing the trilogy, it was just for me. I was not planning to publish until I had finished the first book and I was kind of heading into the second. I'd say maybe midway into the second, where I was like, this is forming into something and like maybe I can look into self-publishing it. Just because I thought that it was pretty original and I thought other people would enjoy the story as much as I was enjoying writing it. But when I first started, you hit the nail on the head. It was just for me. I was very much enjoying myself. There was no pressure. There's still not really a lot of pressure, but there was no pressure for like, anybody to read it because nobody's eyeballs were going on it except for mine. And so even when I went back, I would delete whole chapters. I'd be like, no, I'm starting over. It was such a freeing concept of this is a beautiful creative work of masterpiece of mine that I am thoroughly enjoying. Nobody's seeing it but me. No pressure whatsoever. If I wanted to store it away in my laptop forever, I could and nobody would be the wiser. It's not hurting anybody and I'm very much enjoying myself. And so it was my outlet for a very long time. And then towards the second book, I was talking to a friend and she had actually made the comment of like, why don't you just share it, like publish it? And that was terrifying to me because whenever I wrote stories, it was usually anonymous or like behind usernames or something like that. It was even now I use a pen name like JF Monroe, obviously not my name, but like,
yeah,
still, but like I'm so much more right, exactly. But I'm so much more comfortable with it now, like where I'm sitting. When I first hit that publish button and my work went into the world and I started to like market it a little bit,
Get a panic
about
attack.
stepping out of your comfort zone. You watch, like you say 1 through 4 of your podcast. If you watch the first 4 videos of my TikTok, it is like cringe worthy, like very, oh my
Sweating.
God.
Like, can somebody get me a towel,
Sweating.
please?
And I used to get off of those TikToks and be like, I did it. I did good. Like I got it out there and it's fine and we're fine. Everything's fine. but yeah, like when it started, it was just for me, and now it's kind of in the motion of I'd like to share it with other people because I do think it is a story worth telling, and I think people would enjoy reading.
Absolutely. So my curiosity is, and I've never asked this to anybody before. So you just said you delete whole chapters. Do you still keep like all those old revisions in case you want to look back at something and go, maybe I'll use that chapter somewhere else?
Yes. So it usually for me, if I like it, and it'll usually stay where it is. Or I hate it and I'm like, I will never use this. What was I even thinking writing this? And it'll be deleted. There were two chapters that I was actually really happy that I kind of had that moment of like, well, don't love it here, but let me just like paste it onto a different document and maybe I can bring it back later. And the flow of my writing did allow for those scenes to return and they did make it into the final book.
Cool.
And I was very happy about it. So I would definitely tell people because again, I could be impulsive sometimes, and so like I love pressing buttons. I press delete just as much as enter, and so I'm the first person to like press that delete button if I don't like something. I was really really happy that for at least those two chapters there was something that was like, let's hold on, don't press the delete button, paste it over here in this document. You might never open it again, but it's there and you
Right.
can use it. And I was really happy about using it. Both of them. One more than the other, but both of them at the end of the day.
I think if I was trying to write a book,
Yeah.
I'd have to have a whole directory of like dump stuff. Like, yeah, well, throw that back in there. Maybe I'll look at it and start over again.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I had things pasted in different documents. I also had a little notebook because I will say, and this sometimes escapes people, you got to remember eye colors. And when you're deep in like book three and you're like,
Oh.
what was this person's eye color? Or like, you got to remember how you describe them, which if when people do read my book, they will notice that I don't go heavy on the descriptions of the characters. I really give the very basics and I like to allow the reader to kind of imagine them how they want to. It kind
Right.
of goes
Yeah.
with that,
Yeah.
I hope you see yourself in these individuals. So I don't go too into detail with them. But one thing that I was very big on was their eyes, because their eyes played a very big part in the story. And one of their eyes, I don't know why I did this to myself, but she had chartreuse eyes, which is like
Oh,
a
wow.
yellow green.
Green. Yeah.
Writing that word, let alone remembering that her eyes were yellow green, I
I,
was like, why? Why did you do this?
I run a printing company, and when people ask for that, like chartreuse color, it's like, how do you spell that again? I was
It
like,
is a
Siri, how do you
mess
spell
of a
that?
word. It's an absolute mess of a word. Sometimes in the book, you see, I just put yellowish green.
Check it out.
Oh my goodness.
But it's a crazy word, and sometimes I got lazy and you'll just see yellowish green. Like I'm like her yellowish green. I'm like, let's just see, let's just go with it. I'm not writing it.
It's just as good as chartreuse.
Exactly, exactly.
You mentioned one time that destiny isn't just what happens to us, it's what we choose. How do your characters like Theo and Shade embody this philosophy?
Love that question. Only because a big theme of the trilogy is destiny versus choice, like freedom of choice. Um, Theo is tasked with something. He has to complete this mission. And a lot of his thoughts, his inner thoughts, come from, well, I have to do this. This is what I was meant to do. This is why I'm embodying the horseman death. Like this is my job to do it. Whereas Shade makes a lot of questionable choices that really put the destiny portion into question for Theo. And so it's a battle of like it's like this duality of which one is it? Is it destiny? Is it choice? Is it a little bit of both? Does choice lead to your destiny? And I love playing with that ever since I watched Terminator 2 a long, long time ago.
Really?
Yes, because that movie will always send me down the rabbit hole of like, did he know he was sending his best friend back to be with his mother? But then how did he know if he was a child back then? It drives me
And he
crazy.
wouldn't be here if he didn't do
And he
that.
wouldn't be here if he didn't do that. And so it's just like I'm not even going to go any further than that because I could, but I will not do that. But I love like talking through that with people. And so I use Shade and Theo as like a catalyst of the themes that I'd like to talk about, but don't really talk about it too much with people. And destiny versus like fate versus choice is a huge theme in this book. It runs throughout all three.
So, when it came to like finding the publisher of your books, was that an easy thing for you to find? Or the only reason why I'm asking is because a lot of our guests who have written books have had some struggles with that part of it. Did you also have that same struggle in finding somebody to actually put it out there?
So no, but only because
Yeah,
I'm
nice.
self-published. So I did it all by myself. I
Oh, okay.
went on. So what you can do is you can do something called independent publishing
Okay.
or traditional publishing. And so traditional publishing, those authors hit the nail on the like they are correct. It is hard right now, especially let's say if you're doing like fantasy genre, that is so hot. It's oversaturated in the market.
Mm,
Everybody is writing a fantasy book at this current time right now. And so the traditional publishers and literary agents are being absolutely inundated with query letters of all different types because everyone's shooting their shot, which I totally respect. But they are only one person. It's only one publishing
yeah.
house that can look at
Right.
so many query letters. And so it's really a luck of the draw. It is, timing is everything. It really comes down to that. Someone else has to like how you pitch your work. And so when I was deciding to publish Legacy of the Four, it seemed like a lot of work to me. And so I was like, I don't want to kind of wait around. I really like what I have. What I'll do, and what some other authors might do as well, is self publish so that they'll go on Amazon or however they want to self publish. They'll get their own ISBN. It's basically them marketing themselves, and they'll publish through an independent source like Amazon, KDP, it's called. And so that's how I got Legacy of the Four uploaded. You got to go get your own book cover. You got to create. You
Right.
basically are doing everything a publishing house is representing you for. But you could always revisit traditional publishing, which is kind of what I'm doing now. So my books are out there. They are complete. They are self-published and they're good to go. It's under like you get to create your own publishing house, which I thought was actually really fun. I came up with a really lame one because I was on a real strict deadline, and so it was like JF Publishing or something like that, where I could have had a lot of fun with it. But what I'm doing now is just sending out queries and just saying, like, hey, I'm self published. I got this on Amazon. It's out there. It's a completed trilogy. But would you be interested in, perhaps taking me on or considering me for, you know, traditional publishing? And
That's
it's
cool.
it's really just like a waiting game at this point once you send out that email.
But don't correct me if I'm wrong. But if you send it to a publishing house, don't they sometimes want to make edits to the? So you,
Yeah, you got to be real careful. So sometimes, like with self-publishing, you get creative freedom. You can do whatever you want in that book, to be quite honest. Like you can write whatever you want, however you want it. You get to literally down to the T frame that book in your creative control. When you get a literary agent or when you get a publisher, the publisher might read your book and say, oh, this is a great foundation, but we have these edits that you need to go through. We want to change this to this. How do you feel about that? So, yeah, they do get some creative control. They'll change your book cover. A good example of this is there was a book called Quicksilver on Amazon. She self-published. She had a nice like picture of it was just like some guy in armor and it looked really cool. Um, but she then got picked up from a traditional publishing house and they changed that cover immediately. And so like they do get some
Hmm.
creative control over your narrative and over your work.
hmm.
So, do you think you're going to have a rough time with that if somebody finally does decide to take on your, um, to publish your work? Because it sounds like you've put so much time and effort into you, with everything. That's kind of almost like releasing a little bit of that control. Well,
Yeah,
it's not like it is releasing that control, right? Over that.
it is. And here's the question that you have to ask yourself as an author, and what I've asked myself repeatedly, because I'm like, I like self-publishing. I get to do everything myself. The My main goal now is not changing the book. Like, I don't want to change it too much. My hope is that they would like the content of the book. If you want to change the cover, go change the cover. I kind of like my covers, but if you don't like my covers, that's fine. I'm not like crazy attached to them. Like, I'm willing to make certain sacrifices to get the book to reach a wider audience.
Oh, that's
That's
a
what I
really good
really
point.
want. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
right now, I'm marketing the book myself. That's not a strong point for me. Like, I love coming on podcasts and I love to, put little posts on social media. I've gotten very used to that, and it's become a part of what I do, and I love it. But if you're looking to reach that wider audience, like get it into readers' hands, I as an author myself need help doing that. Like, my audience is not that large. And so
Mm.
I'm curious to see like what I'd have to give up to get the wider audience. I'm open to it, but everyone has a line. If someone comes in and is like, I hate everything about this book, let's rewrite it, and
Mm.
and like, and I'll get it into the right hands. That's not what I want. I don't want to change the entire narrative of the book,
Right.
but
Yeah.
if they want a cover or something like that, we can do
So you're publishing yourself, but who do you find to actually print the book?
Amazon.
Wait,
So
she's on
once
Amazon.
you,
Yeah.
yeah, once you write the book, you can upload it onto KDP, Amazon, and it's Kindle Direct Publishing or something like that, KDP. And so you upload it to Amazon, and Amazon will take a percentage of the book and say like, oh, you can charge 13.99 for the paperback, but 6.99 goes into printing it. And so they take like a
Okay.
cut almost of like your
Okay.
Mm.
I guess I was mis understanding like to me publishing is just putting it on, getting it out there and online, other than like publishing is the whole printing process and everything
Yeah.
for it.
100%. When I first started, I thought the same way. Like, after you really do the research, when you're like looking to publish, you learn that there is so much that needs to be done. I vastly underestimated like the work that goes into it. I definitely was of the mind of like, I made a book. Like, here, it's a book. Go read it. There's like 50 different things you got to do before you can get it uploaded into that. So it takes a while, but
Well, thanks for
it was
explaining
worth
that to
it.
me because I was like, well, she's publishing it. How does she get it printed?
Yeah. No.
Okay, so without giving too much away, what is next for you? Where are there other myths or realms that you're currently exploring? Maybe.
Yes, crazily enough, because when I finished The Legacy of the Four, I went into like a slump. Um, I was just not happy that I finished it. Like, I was happy, but then there was like this real sense of loss because I've been spending a lot of time in like this universe, and I've been spending a lot of time with these characters, and I'm like, are they just going to go quiet? Like, what happens now that I'm done with these books? Like, what do you mean I can't have like internal conversations in my head about with these characters? Like, that's not going to work. I got to say
I do
goodbye
the
to the
same thing with
dog. Are you
TV
kidding
shows. When
me?
you watch them for like 10 years, then when the series
Yes,
ends, you're like, well, what are they doing now? And then after time, it's like,
right.
well, they're not real, but
I
you have to like reason with yourself, like, okay, they're not real, but still, what are they
exactly.
doing right now?
Right. Like, why though? Why? It could have went for another season. And so I got into a real major slump about that. And then after a while, I would still market, and then I decided to like, oh, maybe I'll check out Tribe Publishing. And you just kind of wait. Like, sometimes ideas just pop into your head, and you make sure you take them down. I am working on something. It is going to stay with my eyeballs only, but because it's like nothing is, it's just words on paper at this point. Like, it is in the very, very beginning stages. I'd love to explore something with like the supernatural again. Like, I'd like to dive back
Oh.
into that world. I'd love to do vampires, but there's so many vampire books and movies out there. And so I don't want to do something that I can't put an original twist on. And that's really difficult with
Right.
vampires. Everybody has been doing it real well.
Yeah.
But it's stuck in my head right now. And so I got to see what comes of it, and then it hopefully will either go away and I can work on something else, or it'll stick and maybe something will click and I'll be able to put a unique spin on it that I'll feel comfortable like moving forward with and seeing what comes.
Nice.
Nice.
So we do this thing on the show that we've kind of let slide away, and we have this little jar, and it's got these really absurd questions in it.
Okay.
And we pull one out, and I'll let Angela pull a tab out.
Okay. And then
Now, I
we'll
feel bad
ask
doing this
you-
to her now because we've had so much fun with her. But
All right, it's okay. I'm ready. I told you I made the mistake of saying I'm an open book and I'm ready to talk about anything.
Great. So we'll pull out one of our absurd questions and we'll ask you. And we just love to get the.
and you're not under obligation to actually answer them. But
Oh, but honestly, this might be right in your
Oh.
wheelhouse. If animals could talk, which species do you think would be the rudest?
Okay, I love this question. I feel like cats are just too easy. Hold on, let me think.
oh no, I think cats are rude.
I do too, but like I feel like that's such a cop out answer because they kind of tell you they're rude. Like they're like, no, we're rude. You know what? I'm gonna say a pelican.
A
Parrot.
what?
I
A parrot?
feel like a pelican.
Oh, a
Oh,
pelican.
I can
Yeah.
see that.
I feel like they would be rude. Not as rude as cats. I do feel like cats are number one and will tell you that they are rude. But pelicans give me a very rude vibe, like a petty rude vibe.
I love it. That's probably something you've never been asked on a podcast before.
No, it's great though. I really did love that question. Like I started going through like the animals I know because when you started saying animal, I was immediately like sloth because I thought it might have been like, what's your favorite animal? And if you could talk to any animal, what would you want to talk to? And I was like, sloth. I want to talk to a sloth.
It'd
Rude.
be a very long
Don't-
conversation, though.
Right, like it would be a real slow, chill conversation. Like I
always
just
picture,
feel
like,
we
I
could
always picture like
vibe.
sloths just hanging back with like a doobie hanging out of their mouth and just
Yes,
like talking
like,
like
we
really
just
slow.
talk-
Like, dude, today was
Talking
just
about
so...
like the world, right? Like that, like
Yeah.
why we're here, and I'm just like, yes, let's just deep dive into that right now. But then you said rude, and I was like, oh, cats definitely. But then I was like, so easy, no, do that, pelican.
Awesome. Well, JF Monroe, we certainly appreciate having you on tonight and
Yes.
appreciate you taking the time out and being on our humble little show. And
Yeah. And with the next book, maybe you'll come back and see us again and we can talk more about that. And that'll give us the opportunity to read this book, the trilogy, because I'm actually looking forward to reading this. And I'm so excited.
we got so many books now that we've been talking to authors on order
I
and
know,
coming
it's
in.
been so wonderful.
And like I said, I haven't read a book since high school. I've got a lot of reading to do.
You got to start belting them out. You got to do it. You
That's
are at
right.
least in for an interesting ride when you
Yeah.
when you read those books. So that's awesome. Thank
Again-
you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you've been a delight and we appreciate it.
Yes, thanks so much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.